A lot can happen in 4 years, and that's the timeline of this story. And I want to lay that out beforehand in case it's hard to follow. In 2013, my wife, Victoria, and I got married. The week we got back from our honeymoon, we stepped into Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University at church. And that was the week that I found out that my beautiful new bride came with $80,000 in debt. We were fresh out of college. I was working at a small startup at the time, about 3 years in, and my wife was 1 year out of college, new career, making entry-level wages, so we weren't making a ton of money. And I remember looking at those numbers and just feeling utterly hopeless. There was no scenario that I could come up with where this debt wouldn't be part of our lives in the next 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years. And so that sort of paints the framework for where this story starts. In the spring, our church started the God Is, We Are campaign. Victoria and I had always tithed from day one, but we really wanted to be able to give to the building campaign. We wanted to be a part of what God was doing at Waters Church and just forwarding the gospel to our community, giving back to the community that had given us so much already. And we just felt that with all the debt that we had and our current income, we weren't really in any position to give above and beyond the tithe. After 3.5 years though, at my job, I went into work, I opened my pay stub, and I saw my first raise. It was $1 an hour. I was psyched. But immediately, my mind went to the building campaign. We really wanted to give, like I said, and we were already making it on our prior income, and so we decided that we would just give that extra $1 an hour to the campaign. And we did. We committed that, and we kept it going, I think, until we were in the new building, and this is where it gets really cool. 2 weeks later, I go into work, I'm paid bi-weekly, and I open my next pay stub, and there's another $1 an hour raise. My boss decided, for some reason, that the first $1 an hour wasn't enough, and immediately gave me another $1 an hour. Fast forward 2 or 3 months later, it's First Wednesday, and Pastor Tim is talking about the giving campaign, how it's been going, and he mentions that several months prior, he had made an announcement that we would begin tithing as a church. I had never heard that. I must have missed that service. I wasn't there that weekend. I'm not really sure what happened, but I decided to look back, log into my payroll software, look back at the date that he made that announcement. That date happened to be the very same week that I got that first $1 an hour raise, and that's when it hit my account. So we continued to tithe and give as we felt prompted, and as we advanced in our careers over the next few years, both of our salaries nearly doubled. In January of 2015, I started a little side hustle business to try to make a little extra money to help pay off those loans we talked about. I really, really wanted us to be out of debt, especially before we had our first child, before we bought a home, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get there. So I started the business with the intent of maybe making an extra $100 a week. God had different plans. By the end of the second year, it had become our largest source of income. And in 2017, we had generated enough money from that business to pay for our daughter's birth, to pay off all of our student loan debt, and by the end of the year, to put a down payment on a house. That same year, I decided to leave my 9-to-5 job and focus solely on the business. We stepped out in faith when we had little to give, and God blessed that, beyond what we ever thought would be possible. I've heard from so many people that they will give when they're in a better place, or as soon as they get past a certain point, or once they make a certain amount of money, or once they get their next raise, then they'll tithe. And every time, undoubtedly, they manage to spend the difference. We are not the best at budgeting, far from it, but it's a fact of life that the more we make, the more we spend. In our house, though, tithe always comes first. We've seen God work and bless us. We've seen our income continue to grow. We've seen our spiritual life blessed, and there's no question in our house we'll always tithe.